What up, Long Beach? Welcome back to your home for everything local sports and another episode of Long Beach Sports Talk, brought to you by the Press-Telegram and the Gazette newspapers and presented by Naples Rib Company. It's three guys and a baby who have a lot of respect for Aaron Andrews' professionalism. I am co-sports editor JJ Fiddler, to my right.
Mike Gardavasio holding Vincent Gardavasio, the sports baby, and to our collective right,
Tyler Hendrickson, cooler than Freddie Jackson, sipping a milkshake in a snowstorm. Who talked about you?
Who? We might touch a little bit on the whole Richard Sherman situation. We're also going to swing our way through Long Beach State and update you on some local stories there for the 49ers and a little bit of what's coming up this weekend on the schedule for high school sports here in the Moore League. Everything Long Beach sports right here for your listening and viewing pleasure. Another episode of Long Beach Sports Talk coming up.
It may not technically have been a play, per se, but it's certainly the thing that happened on a court in Long Beach that I will most remember last week.
Oh, yeah, spoiler alert on top play of January. Way to go, Mike.
Right. Well, you know, JJ actually wrote it down because, like, we always, when we do our top moments of the year list, we're always like, I bet something really cool happened in January that I'm forgetting about. I actually put it in a in a calendar file to pop up on December 1st of 2014 because it was like, this is a thing that's a thing. Alex Sanchez, one of the leaders of the Long Beach State women's basketball team, one of our favorite players on that team that we've gotten to cover over the last 3 years, proposed to by her boyfriend Chris Helmage at center court in the Pyramid following the 49ers loss in overtime to Cal Poly last weekend. One of the coolest things I've ever seen. I mean, it was awesome.
Kanye West inspired, can you say? Because they're in a sports arena, and then a video on the Jumbotron is followed by an on-field / on-court proposal. Because the video is very cool. A lot of intimate moments, maybe, that are on the screen, but mostly just a photo montage that kind of gave you a feel for this relationship. It really did, like Mike said, it felt like a family moment within what is not a family moment at all, like NCAA game.
Right.
Well, and it looked like, because there were so many people on the court with cameras, because a lot of people knew. Alex, not one of those people that really knew what was going on, but, you know, the families were there. There were some, you know, the alumni game happened before, so there was a lot of former players that were there, and they were just getting mobbed, and it almost looked like, you know, the paparazzi, sort of. You know, it was just like, oh, celebrity sighting, because everybody had their phones or their camera out, like, swarming to this spot on the court. It was surreal, and, you know, she figured it out pretty quick, obviously, but, yeah, it was a special moment. You don't often see that after a game when there's players in their jerseys.
Right, you very occasionally see a player in a jersey proposing to their significant other, but I can't remember ever seeing a player wearing a jersey being proposed to. And one thing I thought was interesting, and I actually, just as someone who, I think a lot about these moments, about the public proposals and what kind of a relationship is it or whatever, I appreciated this. She knew it was coming. They talked over the winter break. They'd basically already set a date of when they were going to get married. Mm-hmm. He just said, I'm going to propose in a really special way. So it wasn't as though it was just like, hey, you just played a game, bam, now we're getting married. Right. There was some build up to it. They talked it over. It was just the way he did it that was so special and such a surprise. But a very cool thing for us. JJ mentioned the word family, which is what I thought about the whole time, because to my left, just to my left, when we were watching the video, was head coach Jody Wynn. Her husband, also the lead assistant coach on the team, Derek Wynn, and then obviously their two daughters were running around the court as well. So that team has always had kind of a family feel because two of the coaches are married and their daughters are often around practice and everything else. So I thought it was particularly appropriate. As Jody Wynn said, Alex is our daughter, she's our sister, she's our friend, but they really all do kind of fill all of those relationships with each other. So it was kind of perfect that she got to share that moment with her basketball family.
It is a basketball family. You're absolutely right. And I think that something needs to be said for the fact that that program is building right now, and they allow the freshmen to come in and do their thing. So the most transformative of years that these young athletes go through in that program, they go through with that program. You know, they're not just sitting on the bench being the practice players kind of pushed aside for the older players, the veterans to carry. They're pushing them. They're pushing that program over the top. You've got 4 freshmen who came in, 3 of them who play as much minutes as anybody else on the team right now. The fact that that team, that program is about the kids who are coming in and growing that program with them. Alex was a captain as a sophomore.
Right.
It's hard not to feel a family connection with a kid like that when you're that involved in not only their life, but their life as a student athlete.
And just to get back to basketball briefly, speaking of growing the program and kids coming in, we actually broke about an hour before the proposal happened that former Poly star Tadijah Southall is transferring in from USC next season. She's going to be a 6'4" post player. That's the tallest player Jody Wynn has had on any of her 5 teams there. That's going to be an immediate game changer if she can stay healthy. She'll be either a sophomore or a junior, so we could get 2 years of she and Devin Hudson playing together, which if they both stay healthy, pretty cool to see that in the pyramid. And always, obviously, as we always talk about, it's great to see a Long Beach high school kid that's going to be in the pyramid. I'm very happy for that.
Well, we saw it with Long Beach State soccer. Mauricio Ingrazia getting some kids who may have been recruited by universities that are larger, some BCS schools. Things don't work out. We call them the bounce backs.
Right.
Long Beach State women's soccer is very good because of bounce backs. Nadia Link being a bounce back, for one example. Long Beach State women's basketball needs that player.
Yes.
They need to be able to get those bounce backs to come in, and to get Southall with the separation from going to Poly and then going to another school and then coming back. Of course, within that story, you've got Jody Wynn and Derek Wynn, who also recruited her to go to USC. So you do have that connection. But if you don't get that player, if you don't get that bounce back, you're not going to get the bounce backs. So that is a very important thing for the program, that they can show that player can go there, come back, and then hopefully for them and the university, be successful in their return. Make sure you're picking up the Press Telegram every Tuesday. We've got a bunch of local sports coverage there to kind of set you up for the weekend. We do a full calendar, letting you know where you need to be every day or what games you need to be watching out for. We also let you know by the books where people are ranked. And finally, a recruiting roundup done by our own Tyler Hendrickson, where he lets you know where kids are either looking, getting attention from, or eventually going to continue their careers as student athletes. Tyler had a good one this week with an update on Rashad Penny, but it seems like you have an update on big players every week.
Well, there's always something this time of the year. You know, you're getting so close to football signing day, and that's obviously the big sport when it comes to recruiting. That's the one that gets all the attention, all the All-American games, the live hat ceremonies that everyone likes to do. Football is where people go crazy. Signing day, February 5th. So we're getting very close. So keep in mind, all these commitments that have gone down, they are not finalized until you sign. And the first day you can sign is February 5th. So we still have a couple of big name undecideds in this area, led by John Juju Smith at Poly. He announced his final 4, so in no particular order, he's down to USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Notre Dame.
It's sort of in a particular order, because we're pretty sure he's going to go to USC.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are confident. Some people thought he had already committed to USC because he did the standard protocol when you go on a visit and you put on the jersey of that school, and so people kind of lost their minds. But he has not decided. He will decide on signing day. He said that the whole way through. And then Damian Mama from St. John Bosco, the big offensive lineman, also, expected to go to USC, I guess, if you look at the national narrative about him. But obviously, he's got some options as a 5-star recruit. You tend to do. But yeah, it's always good to talk to kids and find out that their future's opening up and they have all these great opportunities at the next level. It's fantastic. And we always appreciate, coaches or parents that come to us and let us know, like, hey, this is what's going on for my son or daughter, and, this is where they're thinking about going and everything like that. So it's a cool thing.
You got to let us know what Rashad Penny's doing.
Well, he just visited Fresno State.
Rashad Penny.
And so this upcoming weekend, he's going to go visit Washington. Those visits go along with San Diego State. So he's got some options. Personally, I don't know where he's going to go. Obviously, I get the sense that Washington is probably the favorite at this point, so we'll see what he feels about the visit when he goes sees the Huskies. He was high on Boise State early when Chris Peterson was still the coach there. Now Chris Peterson, the coach at Washington. So it seems like the writing might be on the wall. Obviously, a Pac-12 school, a great program. So we'll see when he goes and visits the Huskies this weekend.
Recruiting murky water, to say the least. How often do you get stories from kids where they tell you and then they realize, probably shouldn't have told you that, and you end up getting it off the record? How often does that happen? You don't need to give us the off the record stories, but do you find yourself talking to kids who are so unfamiliar with what's legal and what's not legal that they kind of hold back on stuff?
I think at this point kids are pretty well versed as far as like how to talk to a member of the media a little bit. So you already get the sort of the good answers and things like that, and this is okay to say this type of stuff, and they know all the terminology and everything like that because they've been going through it. It's very televised, all these things that you cannot say. And
it was a good fit.
Violations.
It was a good fit. As soon as I got there, I felt like I was home.
You hear a lot of the same answers for sure.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, though, because we actually accidentally helped launch an NCAA investigation into Florida State by reporting on the helicopter trip that they had some of their track athletes on, which is not a legal thing to do because you can't do anything for students on a visit technically that regular students don't have access to. Florida State obviously doesn't provide free helicopter trips to their entire student body. That investigation, according to a source out there, has since turned up that Florida State may have been giving alcohol to underage recruits and some other stuff. So it is sort of an interesting world because there's stuff that happens that can't be talked about on their end. Some kids know that, some kids don't, but that's an interesting point, JJ, because obviously there's not too much light shed on this. The universities aren't even allowed to comment on these kids until they're signed.
Right.
So they're not even technically allowed to confirm whether they've offered a scholarship or whatever like that.
Well, and who just won the national championship in football?
Hey!
The reconnaissance is real, guys. The reconnaissance is real.
Overbuilt it up, right? Just the whole episode I was watching, I was like, this is not a TV show. Like, there's so many shots. I was talking to Shar, but I rewatched it with Shar. It's like the helicopter shot as they're driving that's like over, and then the shot where like Woody Harrelson's in front and all the cops are starting to walk. It's like these are all movie shots. Like, you don't have...
If you know anything about us, you know we love natties. And the team in this city that has the best shot at a natty is the Long Beach State men's volleyball team. They are currently number 5 in the nation, and they have a chance to move up quite a bit this week as they're hosting number 4 USC to kick off their home schedule on Wednesday. And then Friday, number 1 Pepperdine as the Waves come to the beach, as they're wont to do.
Yeah, heck of a way to open your season at home.
Yeah, and it's been a while since they opened their season, so it's nice to get them at home.
It's been about a year since they opened their season.
Yeah, it's literally been 3.5 weeks since their first match, and they're just now finally getting into the pyramid.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, you see what I'm saying. So it's nice to get a chance to actually see them. We've written so much and talked and thought so much about them. They're a disappointing 2-2 in the MPSF after a lot of preseason predictions for national championship. However, head coach Alan Knipe has always said nobody goes undefeated in the MPSF. It's a powerhouse conference. They always have like 13 of the top 15 teams in the country. So when you start out with tough road matches at BYU, at Hawaii, he'd maintain you're just never going to expect to come home 4-0 or 6-0 from trips like that. But now, his key has always been we have to protect the home floor. If they can do that in these matches, Tyler's absolutely right. I think it puts them right back on track in the national championship contention.
Just like last year, Taylor Crabb leading the way for the 49ers. 5 straight double-figure kill matches to start the season. He is climbing the charts of all-time 49ers. Interestingly enough, Alan Knipe also on that list. And Alan Knipe, a couple wins away from 200 in his career as well. So a lot going on for the 49ers.
Thing to watch if you're looking for sort of a key to these matches is the health of Dalton Ammerman, their second best hitter after Taylor Crabb. He's a 5th-year senior, very, very talented player. As Alan Knipe said, he wouldn't be number 2 on many teams in the nation. He just happens to have a National Player of the Year returner as his fellow guy out there on the left. But Ammerman sprained his ankle and missed a lot of time in those matches, especially the ones that they lost. So his health is going to be a key because they need to be at full strength in order to take down these teams.
Fantastic article about Richard Sherman in the Press Telegram right now by our own Chris Trevino. If you don't already know, he went to Compton Dominguez High School and was obviously a star there. One of, I think it's like one of only 2 kids from Dominguez to ever go to Stanford, or like one of only 2 football players or something like that. Obviously, an incredible life story, son of a garbage truck driver and a social worker. You know, just the type of thing that storybooks are written about. But he is in the news right now because of his explosion on mic and off mic after the win over the 49ers. Mike, a huge San Francisco 49ers fan. And let me just say one thing real quick.
No.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio 2 mornings ago broke it down perfectly. They said, I don't like the way he goes about his business, but who am I to tell him he's not allowed to do what he does? Play with a chip on his shoulder, talk a lot, whatever it is. I wouldn't teach my kid to be like that, but I can't hate on him for being like that, which I feel like is close to an okay breakdown.
In the words of Ricky Bobby, and keep in mind, I'm saying this as a 49ers fan who was heartbroken when he knocked that pass back. I love the way he's talking to you. I loved it. That was most of the things I like about professional sports right there. And anyone who's ever complained about how boring athlete interviews post-game are had better bite their tongue before they say anything about Richard Sherman, because he didn't say anything that was abusive or over the line or inappropriate to me.
Curse.
He didn't. He said the same thing I hear every good cornerback I have ever covered saying to receivers, and he felt that Michael Crabtree had said enough stuff to him that he was going to say it on camera. I honestly am shocked that there's been the response to this, and I think if it had happened in a regular season game when only real football fans are paying attention, it wouldn't be this way. I think maybe it's because there's so many casual sports fans, but anyone who knows anything about defensive backs knows they're all like that. They're crazy. You have to be crazy to be a cornerback.
Yeah, specifically the relationship between defensive backs and receivers. I mean, you look at Anquan Bolden isn't out there making friends.
Right.
He's not trying to find people to go to his weekend barbecues.
Well, and we know Crabtree is a talker.
They're both talkers. They're the biggest, arguably two of the biggest talkers at their positions in the league.
Well, and less than 5 minutes prior, he made the play of his life in the game of his life. Yeah. And it's been a head-to-head battle the whole time. And so he should be fired up. So how do you want people to play hard and athletes to be interesting?
He's still on the field.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he's still between the white lines when that interview's conducted.
And it was the same thing that people gave Des Bryant. Like, you expect them to just be robots and be so fired up when they play, and then as soon as the whistle sounds, they're just like, oh, calm, and I'm just going to give the same token, boring answer. No, I mean, that's interesting, and it's smart by him, because that is all anyone is talking about. And he just became famous. He didn't do anything that's going to hurt his ability to play corner, and he's still in his prime right now.
Well, and then immediately in the commercial break after that interview, a commercial with him being a controversial figure that he got paid for comes on. I mean, come on.
Exactly. Hey, the handshake and the butt slap, though, unacceptable. Can't do that. Can't do that right after the play. If you want to do that after the game, after the final whistle, that's fine. Not right after the play.
I wouldn't say unacceptable, but I also didn't blame Michael Crabtree for chin checking.
Class. You know what I mean? I'll say it's a little too much.
It's a little too much. It wouldn't have been what I would have done.
I have more of a problem with that than with the interview.
Well, because then when he freaks out in the interview, you realize that the handshake wasn't in earnest.
Right.
No, yeah. I mean, well, and the choke thing to the San Francisco sideline, that's a little over the top, but I mean, he was fired up. You know, I don't begrudge him. I'm not going to say, oh, I hate Richard Sherman because he did that or whatever. And also, let me just point out, people, when you talk about people on the internet, you know, you don't know their life. You know what I mean? Like, all these people that are saying all this hateful stuff about Richard Sherman and saying he's a thug and all this, they know less than nothing about Richard Sherman. Like, I mean, he's significantly smarter than you, random internet person. Right. So why don't you calm down and stop judging people from the comfort of your own couch and let the man live?
He's the most entertaining football player right now in an entertainment business.
No doubt.
That's it. That's all. There ain't no more. Another episode of Long Beach Sports Talk in the books. Like we mentioned, a huge weekend at all levels, really. And it starts on Friday afternoon. We got some big boys soccer games in the Moore League.
Yeah, we do. Wilson at Jordan, also at Jordan later that night on Friday. Compton's in town, so a big test for those Panthers. Almost upset Milliken.
Yeah.
What can they do against the Babes?
Boys basketball going to be real interesting here at the beginning of the second round, because we had some things happen in the first round that we really didn't expect.
No doubt. Remember Long Beach State Friday against Pepperdine in the Pyramid, and then Saturday against Cal State Northridge, Jerry Tarkanian going to return to the Pyramid. Be sure to check that one out. Also, Long Beach Poly girls basketball hosting Windward on Saturday at 7. That is a huge matchup. Jackrabbit fans haven't seen the most competitive basketball in the LBC. That one will be presumably competitive. Windward very good, led by a couple of top national recruits.
All of that local coverage, you know where to find it. It's right here for everybody involved in this show, and at the Press Telegram, and at the Gazette newspapers. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being one of the best cities to cover local sports in.
One of
all time. For Mike, for Vinny, for Tyler, for JJ.
You are figuratively
for everybody else in the LBC. We'll see y'all in the stands this weekend. Take care. Reconnaissance is real. I'm telling you.
When
he's explaining his daughter,
because I saw Frailty was like the first Matthew McConaughey movie. It's always been about that guy, even as he's been doing his shirtless cowboy things.
You missed 10 Guys in 10 Days and Failure to Launch and Fool's Gold.
10 Guys in 10 Days?
Whatever it's called. What's it called?
10 Days.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
Thank you. Whatever.
Oh my God. Family Guy needs to do an apology. actually, I think. They need to have, like, Peter, like, do the foot on the desk thing, like, in several locations and say, "We apologize to Matthew McConaughey. You sucked for so long, and now you're doing good work. Good for you, Matt.
He's always done.
Good for
He's
you.
always done.
Good for you, and then that's it.
And then that's
it. Just a cutaway to apologize, because they have given that dude crap.
No, but he's always.
like,
They've
years.
killed him multiple
Australia?
times.
Wasn't he in Australia or something?
Yeah,
He was in like multiple plane crashes.
No, but he's always done the thing that I've always respected people in Hollywood, where he's done like really good movies that no one fucking saw, and then movies that paid him a shitload of money so he could stay rich, and then these like art house movies that didn't even get wide releases or whatever. It's not like
So he's figuring it out.
It's not
But
like
now he's hitting mainstream with his talent.
It's not.
which I respect.
But it's not like he was like Eddie Murphy, where he was like, well, there's 15 years where he didn't do a single good movie or something. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm just saying if you're talking about a soccer game at 3:00 on Friday,
Listen,
I'm not
that's
saying
the cutoff. Friday night is the start of the
When
weekend.
you get out of class on Friday,
What time?
weekend has begun.
After 5. That's the end of the standard workday. Friday evening is the start of it.
Vinny agrees. I could see it in his eyes. See? Totally agrees with me.